Horror has been around for many decades, and with those comes thousands and thousands and thousands of movies. There are the beautiful movies that we love, and on the other hand, we got the movies that are straight dirt, and then somewhere in the middle, we got a bunch of mid. But today, your boy Tech is bringing you the top 10 must-watch horror movies that best represent what the horror genre is about. So like I said, this is 10 movies that I feel like best represent why we love horror. And before we jump into that, if you're new to the channel, go ahead, subscribe to your boy. I'm just trying to build a horror community here, so every subscriber will be greatly appreciated. And also comment down below, what are your top 10 horror movies of all time? Because I'm definitely interested to see what you all say. And so without further ado, let's get this thing rolling. Coming in at number 10 on my list is the movie Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead is a pioneer. It invented the modern zombie as we know it today. They had bold casting of Dwayne Jones, which was back then taboo to a degree, so that was really groundbreaking. And having somebody that was of color in a movie like that. It has a minimalist setting, but it really does amplify that claustrophobia and a level of human tension. And this was also a low budget film, so being able to execute all of this at a high level, and it goes to show you do not need a high budget for high production value. Shining and sparkling example of what that looks like. It's a classic and is a quality movie that's coming in at number 10 on my list. Coming in at number 9 on the top 10 horror movies of all time that best represent the genre is the movie The Conjuring. I feel like I've talked about The Conjuring so much over the past couple of weeks. I don't know why, but The Conjuring is just a sterling example of a haunted house horror movie done almost the best that it could possibly be done. It has way more modern polish and intensity. Talking about the Warrens and their story just in general, outside of Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson's portrayal of them, their story and their cases already add a lot to the movie. But then when you cast like Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, and then Lily Taylor as the mom in the Perrin family and all the girls and all this good stuff, and you just get quality actors and people who really know how to portray emotion, and they do it in timely ways, it can really set the scene. And scenes set the movie, and that's why this movie is a masterpiece in all intents and purposes. If I had to tell somebody to watch a haunted house movie, I don't think there's a better option than watching The Conjuring. It has great pacing and tension building by James Wan. And honestly, this movie also spawned like a crazy amount of movies after this. I mean, obviously there's the ones who are trying to be like a spoof of The Conjuring, and then there's also spin-offs of this whole franchise. So having the Annabelles and the Nun and so on and so forth. So this movie has really done a lot for the horror genre, and there's no way that it couldn't make a top 10 list considering how great it is. It's one of my favorite of all time. It's right over there. Y'all know how we rockin'. So yeah, The Conjuring absolutely deserves to be on this list. Coming in at number 8 is the movie Scream from 1996. Scream, for all intents and purposes, revitalized the dying slasher genre. You know, after about 88, 89, the slashers as a whole started to go downhill. Yeah, we had our select few that were good, and really for a lot of our major franchises, they were on installment 7, 8, 9, and all this good stuff leading up to 1996. And the horror genre just needed something fresh and new, and Wes Craven and Scream came through and knocked it out the park. One of the biggest things that Scream added to the horror genre is the meta aspect. And for people who aren't familiar with the meta, it's like essentially self-referential. So it's having characters in a movie be aware in a way that they're in a horror movie, or if they're not aware that they're in a horror movie, then they're aware of horror movies that we know exist. So with Scream playing Halloween, and Randy coming up with the rules of survival. So you can't drink, do drugs, or have sex. Never say I'll be right back. Everybody's a suspect. You know, all these different things. And it was just genuinely creative. Ghostface himself is also unique in that he's like the only horror character that I can think of, and definitely the only slasher. Each time you see Ghostface, it's not the same person under the mask, but at the end of the day, it's still Ghostface. So it's different from our Jasons and our Michael Myers and Freddy and so on and so forth, where they are who they are, and like that is it. Michael Myers is Michael Myers, but Ghostface has been Billy and Stu, and has been Emma Roberts, Billy's mom. But yeah, that's one thing that is truly unique about Ghostface. And one of the biggest things that it did is it influenced a lot of movies that came after it. So whether it's I Know What You Did Last Summer, or The Faculty, or Halloween Resurrection, or The Craft, or, you know, whatever movie you want to talk about, like there's some influence that you can see from Scream in those movies. Coming in at number 7 on my list is the movie The Silence of the Lambs. This is one of the most controversial films in terms of people talking about whether this is actually truly a horror movie or if it's just a suspense thriller. And I am 100% on the side of the fact that, I mean, clearly because it's on this list, that this is definitely a horror movie. It's okay for movies to be blended genres. I mean, we clearly see it, especially today. A whole lot of these elevated movies and so on and so forth are all blended genres. So it's perfectly fine, but this is definitely a horror movie as well. This is probably the best horror movie that you can watch that doesn't involve like any type of supernatural element whatsoever. So Reese is going to Hannibal Lecter so he can help her figure out who's this killer, psychotic games that he plays, and the information that he gives her, and just this whole mental battle with her, and then with her still trying to solve the case and all this good stuff. This movie is just a classic. There really are no flaws whatsoever. This is one of the only horror films to win a major Oscar, so this movie just deserves all the love in the world. Coming in at number 6 is the movie A Nightmare on Elm Street. I've gone on record many times saying that I think that this movie is the most creative idea that you can have, not only just for a slasher, but probably for a horror movie altogether. Having a supernatural slasher where the killer kills you in your dreams, I mean, that concept to me is just so amazing, because when the movie is in a setting or something to that effect where you should feel most comfortable, but you're technically most vulnerable also at that point. And so when you're sleeping, there is no bigger vulnerability than being asleep, because you're almost powerless in that way. Having somebody do things to you in your dream and it affects you in real life, I don't know. That concept is just top tier. That's the best way I could put it, but it's just a really creative and imaginative way to give an edge beyond just the mass serial killers that we know and love. And his influence really shaped 80s horror. Coming in at number 5 on my list is the movie Psycho. Psycho, also kind of similar to Night of the Living Dead, is a pioneer in a way. Is one of the first movies, especially in the horror genre, where we got that bait and switch. So you're thinking the movie is about to be about this one character, Marion Crane, and then the whole movie flips on its face, and you realize the movie isn't even about her at all, and then go on and spend more time learning about Norman and Norma and so on and so forth. And then the shower scene, I mean, just there's a lot of things that are just iconic about this movie. The house and the stairs and just the way that looks, like you instantly see that and you know exactly what movie it is. Hitchcock, you deserve your flowers. Coming in at number 4 is the movie The Shining. The Shining is one of those movies that grows on me every single time I watch it. That's funny saying something, because I can promise you to this point, I probably still don't even fully 100% understand The Shining, but I recognize how good and how quality of a horror movie this is. Kubrick's design and his pacing and with his visuals, it really adds really nice elements to the movie. Having the girls in the hallways, the blood rushing down the elevator, all of these things, just visually this movie is a masterpiece. Then Jack Nicholson's performance as Jack Torrance is also one of those situations where it's pure top tier. He's extremely iconic. Everybody knows the Here's Johnny scene, and it's just great. And honestly, even the Overlook Hotel itself just looks really eerie and creepy and desolate. It just seems like you're just out in the middle of nowhere, and then it's just so big and empty inside. I don't know. It really keeps you unsettled. One of those ultimate horror classics. Coming in at number 3 on the list is the movie The Thing. The Thing is one of the best horror movies of all time. It's a John Carpenter direction, and I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter's movies. It features some of the greatest practical effects that you'll ever be able to see in cinema. And there's something about the level of paranoia and isolation that really builds dread, unlike some other films that we watch. Couple that with an ambiguous ending that leaves audiences debating years later, and performances from people like Kurt Russell. I mean, you just got a masterpiece sandwich. The movie is great all around, no flaws, and is easily one of the best horror movies of all time. Coming in at number 2. So we're down to the top 2 on this list, and our number 2 is the movie The Exorcist. This, I feel comfortable in going on record and saying this is probably the scariest horror movie of all time. Now, from a modern sense, I think Sinister is scarier. What they were able to accomplish, especially with those practical effects way back then, and even today watching these, it still feels scary. It still feels unsettling. It still feels eerie. It really just set the benchmark for what supernatural horror was gonna look like in the future. and innocence. There's a level of emotional depth with this movie. This movie sparked nationwide controversy. Like, everybody and their mama was talking about this movie and how debatable it was, with how you have all this religious iconography and then you have this character who is basically an incarnate of the devil. So like, I 100% can understand the controversy, and it 100% was warranted, but I feel like a lot of that also helped drive people to go see the movie, which is a great thing, because now just everybody experience what is easily a top 3 horror movie of all time. That I feel like that's a consensus overall, and then just where in the top 3 it falls for you is really what's debatable, if anything. But yeah, this movie is an absolute masterpiece. One of those movies that I will always appreciate and respect for the movies that it was able to spawn, and all of these haunted house type horror movies and exorcism type movies that I really do love and enjoy. Coming in at number 1 for the best horror movie of all time, the most influential horror movie of all time, that is John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. I mean, what more can I say? I mean, this movie is based on a whole holiday, and everybody gets excited every single year, right when fall is coming around. Michael Myers is literally like the epitome and the image and quintessential example of what Halloween, horror, and all that combined means. The first slasher to sort of formula and define what a final girl looks like. It's also another movie that was extremely low budget, and once again going to show you that you don't need millions and millions and millions of dollars to make great movies. You don't need all of the CGI and all of that production and stuff like that. It's just how focused are you on the minute details that help make a movie impactful. And that's not even getting into Michael Myers himself and being this emotionless killer that I've come to know and love. He is the most iconic horror icon of all time, and his movie will always stand the test of time and be a movie that I look forward to watching every single year in October. So that is all I have, Spooky Gang. These are the top 10 most influential and top 10 movies that best represent what the horror genre is about. Y'all comment down below what you thought of this list, and what are your top 10 horror movies of all time. Not your favorite, but what you think are the best horror movies of all time. Y'all comment that down below. I really look forward to seeing it. I loved the engagement on the last video talking about everybody's favorite horror movie. It's really nice to get to know you all individually and your individual personalities and the things that you like. Please keep that up. I absolutely love it. Like I said, this is a community. It's not about me just uploading videos just to get it out there or just to get this level of notoriety or anything like that. I like to upload the things that I know you guys will be interested in and will want to see. That this is your channel. I just help guide it. So I'm just trying to bring you all the content that you will love. And so yeah, y'all comment that down below. We'll love to see the engagement. Hope you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I know I did. Ate a good little bit. And it's just amazing to see that we're now at the end of the year. It is December now, and so we only have a few short more weeks of horror movies that we could watch before we have to start wrapping this thing up. And then we'll be looking into doing a year-end review of what 2025 horror has brought us and what are some of the best movies that have come out in this year. So y'all be on the lookout for that. But yeah, until next time, Spooky Gang, y'all already know how we rocking. Y'all stay blessed and y'all stay spooky.